Here are 4 common struggles of ex-Jehovah's Witnesses and how to deal with each one. Struggle number 1, trusting other people. Jehovah's Witnesses live under constant surveillance and monitoring of their behavior. Snitch culture is strong in the Jehovah's Witnesses. Someone's always watching you or prepared to lecture you, right? If you do one little thing wrong, you're going to be, quote, counseled. Or if it's something, they deem more serious, you're just outright punished and kicked out and shunned. The measures that they take are so drastic. So it's completely understandable, when a Jehovah's Witness leaves the organization, they're trying to develop friendships or they're trying to date or whatever. It makes sense that they would develop trust issues. They grew up in a religious culture where people just disappearing from your life was completely normalized. So a lot of them struggle with, are you a, quote, safe space? Can I talk to you freely or are you going to suddenly turn on me? How can I trust that you'll be there for me when my own family isn't? My own family shuns me or my friends who I've known for 20, 30 years suddenly turned on me. 2 things to keep in mind. 1, the witnesses are insane. Okay, this whole shunning, ostracism thing is not going to be, it's a drastic measure that most people are not going to use. And if they do, they're in a cult. More on that soon. Basically, if you use the witnesses as an excuse to never put yourself out there, try to meet new people or just talk to people, strike up a conversation with someone, if you allow your past experience and the witnesses to be the template of what you should expect from people, they win. They've succeeded. In keeping you in a permanent state of fear. And 2, real friendships take time, something I had to learn. So be careful not to place unrealistic expectations on the other person. People are going through stuff. A lot of times it has nothing to do with you. They're exhausted. They have no bandwidth to nurture a friendship. And if, you do become friends and you're always giving and there's no reciprocity, then yeah, cut them loose. It doesn't make them a bad person. Just for whatever reason, the friendship isn't progressing or whatever. So, stop giving your energy to it. However, the opposite side of this, I had someone email me one time. She was an ex-J-Dub. I was coaching at the time, and she was asking for a session. She sent me a really long email, and she was explaining all these problems and struggles that she was dealing with. I felt really bad for her, but, I was straight up. I was really nice about it. I was like, I don't think I'm the right person to help you with your specific needs. And I was offering her some suggestions, and she came back with just a super rude, completely unhinged email, which I, of course, didn't respond to. I told you my life story. I trusted you. You chose to unload your story on me. You are creating a self-fulfilling prophecy. I can't trust anybody. Maybe you're an energy vampire who is trauma dumping on people, and that's a turnoff. So you want to be careful not to weaponize your trauma to strong arm someone into being friends with you. That's just manipulative. And this wasn't even like a budding friendship. This is just some random stranger. But what I'm saying is when it comes to trust issues, it can't always be the other person's fault. All right. If you are committed to being offended by everything, if you are committed to seeing the worst in people, that's what you're going to find. All right, don't allow your past experience in Watchtower La La Land to dictate your future in the real world. Struggle number 2, trusting yourself. Former Jehovah's Witnesses really struggle with this because they were told their whole lives, the heart is treacherous. Don't lean upon your, remember this one? Don't lean upon your own understanding. They basically taught us to be helpless. And anything that was a personal achievement, you achieved something at school, you got an award, or you're really good at a hobby or a sport or something, none of that matters. You couldn't really talk about it, or be proud of yourself because that looks like you're not being humble, or it looks like you have an independent spirit like Satan. It's ridiculous. They don't want anything that outshines them. They want docile sheep that are just going to nod along, who will just blindly follow them. But if you're confident, you have good self-esteem, you're going to think for yourself and you're not going to put up with their crap. So, how does this translate when a Jehovah's Witness leaves? They have trouble trusting their instincts, listening to their intuition. Maybe you lean too much on a friend or a coworker. Like, what should I do? You're indecisive. You're afraid you're going to mess up, do the wrong thing. Or another big thing, shunning culture is so deeply ingrained in your nervous system. The stakes feel really high with every interaction or budding friendship, developing friendship, meaning this person is going to leave. If I say the wrong thing or we have a disagreement or something, I have to make sure that everything's fine at all times. So realistically, concretely, what this looks like is you're quick to bend or concede or just appear agreeable all the time so you don't upset them so they don't leave. Instead of just trusting yourself and how you feel about something and you express that and you just let the chips fall where they may, you get ex-J-dubs, who will just twist themselves into a pretzel to please the other person or their social group. Or another huge one is they feel really guilty for standing up for themselves, and they're standing up for themselves against their Jehovah's Witness mother, father, brother-in-law, sister, or whatever. So I'm not going to tell you, just be confident. That's like saying, just go swim and you don't know how to swim. You're like, yeah, I'd love to swim, but I don't know how to do that. But you can start with a pool noodle. You can start with boundaries. Figure out what your values are, what you're okay with, what you're not okay with. Okay? And as you enforce your boundaries with your Jehovah's Witness family or your coworker, friend, or whoever it is that you're talking to, your confidence will grow because you stood up for yourself. You just don't allow certain behaviors in your life. You know how to navigate choppy waters of the outside world because you've built that muscle, that stamina that comes with setting boundaries. Struggle number 3, finding purpose. So a lot of ex-J-dubs feel sort of aimless after they leave. And if this describes you, in your defense, your life was filled with congregation activities. You were constantly going to meetings, service, or maybe you were on the RBC or you were an elder. You had some kind of position in the congregation. So your life was just full with J-dub stuff. But more importantly, maybe you were a true believer. And it was a shock to your system when you woke up. And you're like, oh my God, what is the meaning of life? What do I do from this point forward? I say just explore. Figure out what you love to do. Whether that's a hobby, just do whatever feels organic, like it comes naturally. I don't have a formula for you. I would just say beware of the pitfall that a lot of ex-JWs find themselves in, and that's attaching yourself immediately to a new movement. Don't rush. You just got out of an abusive relationship. You don't need to line up a new relationship. Clear the cobwebs, the watchtower cobwebs first. And like I said, you could still explore. That's the beauty of being free from watchtower. Just don't make any major commitments during this time. That's really it. Just give yourself time, be patient, and I don't even think you need to overcomplicate it. If surfing makes you happy, go surf. If yoga brings you contentment or peace or whatever, go do yoga. If you have a strong urge to worship again in a congregation and be part of a church, cool. Just do your due diligence, research different churches, and just be careful that you don't get sucked into a new watchtower situation. And I just say that because that's another thing that happens is a lot of former Jehovah's Witnesses leave and they get this erroneous belief or idea that they should just abandon their faith completely, or that I guess now I'm atheist because I don't believe in Jehovah or I don't believe in what I came from. If you're atheist, fine. I'm saying if you still believe in Jesus, you're still a believer. You don't have to give it all up because Watchtower's crazy. Again, just make sure you maintain your personal agency. You're driving the car and that you don't get sucked into another cult. That's it. Speaking of which, struggle number 4, trouble shedding dogmatic tendencies. A big chunk of ex-J-dubs are understandably burnt out from religion, so they go this way. I should say they move away from God, religion. They become very secular. A lot of them are atheist. I don't care. It's your life, okay? But this is the direction they're going. They're understandably burnt out from Watchtower and horrific experiences. Totally understandable. They go this direction, a big chunk of them. And there's a percentage, not all of them, but there is a percentage who they move away from God, religion, Watchtower, spiritual. They're completely secular this way, and they're no more God, no more religion, okay? And then they wind up worshiping their politicians, professors, and celebrities. But we're not a cult. The Jehovah's Witnesses are stupid. They're a stupid cult. It's okay to make fun of them. That's different. Nah, dude, you're in a new cult. It's just got a different outfit. It's just dressed up differently, right? So this group of people, they become just as dogmatic as the thing that they came from. They become just as dogmatic as Watchtower, as their old cult, and they only engage in bad faith arguments. They're not interested in finding commonalities, recognizing valid points. You could have a conversation where there's 10 boxes. You agree with 9 boxes. 1 box you disagree on, you're dead. It's not like, I can kind of see your point about ... but I don't really agree with XYZ. That's how I feel. That's cool. It's not realistic. You're not going to see eye to eye on everything. You should be using your critical thinking skills and thinking for yourself. But you also get the vibe of just live and let live. Maybe you're still even friends. That's not what I'm talking about. These types of people are going in eyes glazed over. I don't waste my time with people like this because they're not reasonable. Their argument is not rooted in good faith. Case in point, go wake up a witness. Let me know how that goes. They're in a cult, They only see things in black and white terms. They're right, you're wrong, and this same cult-like bullshit unfortunately extends beyond the Jehovah's Witnesses, beyond religion. So instead of getting sucked into a debate where the person has demonstrated that they are completely unreasonable, completely unwilling to hear a different viewpoint, I would say learn to value the feedback and input and constructive criticism of people who have demonstrated that they have your best interests at heart, who are actual friends. Okay, you guys can have disagreements and still go get a beer afterwards. TLDR, don't let Watchtower, your new congresswoman, or, your new spirit guide, Melinda, take away your ability to think for yourself. Anyways, thank you guys for watching. Go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button for more XJW content, and I will see you in the next video.